everybody, and welcome to episode apparently 400. Maybe.
It's true.
Easy peasy.
Briar's not here, so I can assure you it's accurate.
Briar's not here, so things might be a disaster. We'll see. You never know. We'll find out
Or
together.
it could be better. The audio could be better.
That's true. It has been quiet on Spotify. Or Apple? I don't remember. One of those.
Yeah. He's out this week, though, so we'll miss him.
Yeah, Briar's not here. It's just us. This is the ultimate tutu throwdown, I think is what this podcast is called.
Tutu throwdown?
Yes.
Oh, I thought. Yeah,
You're like, wait,
I
what?
understand the reference. I thought you were saying two, like the number two.
Tutu.
No, this is like a tutu. Yeah, the tutu throwdown.
Tutu,
Yeah,
no underwear throwdown.
I'm gonna wrestle Fran.
Okay, I was wondering. I didn't know the tutu thing. I haven't heard that. Oh, this was part of the story. You all missed it. Myelin had a cocktail stream.
Yes.
Do you want to tell people about this?
Yeah, let's get your cocktail stuff.
You broke the seal on because everybody's confused now. You're like tutus,
right?
Yep.
He's gonna wrestle Fran in a tutu.
I mean, I think everyone understands my criticisms of episodes or the rebranding of episodes, and one of my big bugbears was it's exactly the same as seasons, and the story is still suffering pretty bad with like go to hologram, get wad of text, and then go collect data, and then come back to hologram. And it's pretty much the reason why I don't do Destiny lore anymore, because it's grinded me too much. Anyway, I reinstalled Destiny because you know, a lot of people fairly criticize me, saying, well, you need to wait until episode 2, like judge it on episode 2, because episode 1 or like seasons that come with like major expansions are typically pretty light. So there's kind of like still some hope left for episode 2. So I said, okay, reinstall Destiny, and I made a bet with myself that every time I have to go collect data, I will make a cocktail. So if I'm not having a good time, I am having a good time, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So
That's the perfect plan.
the story feels really good and I'm not just like looking at holograms and collecting data.
Yeah. You will treat.
I've, 3 or 4 cocktails down and we're having a good time anyway.
How many cocktails down were you?
Not as many, like not
as many as
like
usual.
go to hospital. I think about 4. So I was pretty lively. I was pretty lively after 4 cocktails. It definitely. Yeah, so hence the tutu story. When you have a couple drinks, you start bringing up other drunken stories.
Yeah,
and it devolved from there into Bucks parties. And
the reference was I showed up in the middle of this, and I'm like, "How's the episode going?" And he just was laughing. He couldn't get a word out. And it was kind of just this cackling for a while. Chat was all lit up, and then I figured out what was going on. And then he just blurted out something like, I'm going to wrestle you, or so. I don't know. Like, was that the context? He's just like, I showed up and you
I think so. I honestly can't remember. I just thought, you know what? Fran looks like a guy you'd party with and you'd wrestle. And that's
something like that. Then he told a story about how him and his buddies at a buck party or a bachelor party.
Yep.
Etc. Wherever you live.
And Myelin was wrestling him with and his friend was wearing a tutu with no underwear, because that's the tradition.
I missed that part.
Yeah,
Wow.
no underwear. And Myelin tapped out when
you got some taint in the face.
in the face. Yeah.
the match had been tainted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's pretty much a summary of my stream on Wednesday. Tuesday night, Wednesday morning.
Okay. Now we have context to how Myelin experienced the new episode.
Yeah.
I do remember it. I thought I got off pretty lightly with only 4 cocktails. Do you want to tell us about your week, or do you want to jump straight into Revenant stuff?
We could jump to Destiny stuff, I think.
Yeah.
You let us. What do you want to do, Watts? Yeah.
Yeah. We got a bunch of other news as well. Let's talk about Revenant.
Yeah. Revenant released.
What's that?
It's here.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. It's a little bit different this time. They're letting you experience all of Act 1 in one go, which I know Fran would like to talk about.
Yeah, and I will.
This is where the tutus come out. by the way.
I actually was reminded that some people were still confused that it's only Act 1, so about
Yes.
3 weeks
I
of
was.
content. So
Yep.
as a reminder, if you didn't hop in yet, it's not the whole episode. It's just several weeks. Act 1.
I'm sure they said that, but
They
for
said
whatever reason, in my mind, I was like, I will play all of episode 2. But I know that was incorrect, but I was kind of like, huh? What? Where's the whole thing?
Honestly, I look back on it and we talked about it on past episodes. I was like, people are going to be confused because they hyped it in a very short way, and they sort of ended on of Act 1. And I was like, everybody was confused by the way they said it. It was not that they misled you. It's just the way they said it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us thought that and maybe wanted to just see how that would go. Of like, because we have a bunch of time gating and stuff. So being like, hey, we're just gonna let you play the entire episode 2, and you get to experience. I guess it doesn't work with launching like the exotic mission. I guess you could just wait.
Right.
You just wait. But I think they're probably the reason why they probably ended up landing on this is like there's an exotic mission coming in Act 3, and it normally involves the story. I mean, last episode you had to have been caught up with the story to even like get the drop for the thing.
Yeah.
So normally they are a part of the story mission. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a few things to talk about, which would be like, what did we think of the actual
overall
episode and the story, but also what do we think of dropping 3 weeks at a time and or just Act 1, pretty much all of it. Where do you guys want to start on those two?
I think overall impressions.
Yeah,
maybe just start with the content first.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's more Destiny. I don't think there's anything outstanding by it. I think people are more intrigued by it than episode 1, just like villain wise, theme wise, story wise. Some cool cutscenes in there as well. But still a lot of hologram vendors. I mean, what you would expect from Destiny. I think there wasn't too many other surprises, right? Like pretty typical formula.
Yeah, I would love to hear on the story side, maybe before we just outline it, I think it'd be good to outline the content for those who aren't playing it. But what did you think of like the story? I remember you saying in Echoes, maybe even before it finished, you're like, it's not that interesting. There were a few notes. Like, did you find the opening to this with like Fickrell and they're like, I don't know, there's a zombie kind of virus essentially or something. Like they're using the power of the Echo to create like zombie scorn or something like that. Maybe you can
like
explain it better.
Scorn. I mean,
what do you think of the story setup though?
Yeah, look, I think it was better. I think there was only one real criticism I had of it. There was a big kind of jump when after you crash the helm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It kind of just needed like a 2 week later kind of deal or something in there. I was like, what? That was a bit of whiplash, but I think that was a bit of a misstep there. But if they had filled that properly with even just like 2 weeks later, you're now back in like this new space.
It's funny. That would have
been nice.
Actually, that probably was. I don't know if that was part of week 1 or not. Now that because they launched it all at once, like meaning was that maybe meant to make us wait a week? Like was that the issue? No. It just
that's like the
I found it jolting
scene.
as well. I actually had to rewatch it. I was like, I thought that Fickrell came back to like get Aramis, and then there was this crash, and I was like, then it cut. And maybe to Aramis, I was like, wait, Aramis just got. Nothing happened other than this crash, but
I think that
part
text
of it,
like 2 years later, 2 weeks later would have really helped. Yeah, because you're like, where are we? What is this? What's going on?
Was it 2 weeks later though?
I don't know. I mean, it was a time.
I mean, I thought
it was a time jump.
It wasn't immediately after. Yeah.
So here's what happens without spoiling too much. But your ship, the helm, crashes, and then you're just standing in the last city like after, right? And I think that's the jolting part. You don't see like basically you're missing the contextual shot of like, where did this helm land now and why am I here? And they launch a whole new play space. And part of that was a really cool surprise. And part of it, I was a little jolted at first. I thought I was in part of the tower. In fact, I would actually say the cutscene, they panned up, I thought, to the tower.
To the
and
tower.
that's the issue. Maybe they meant it to be a surprise, but the contextual video storytelling, I was like, wait, where am I? But anyway, you're in the last city, which is pretty cool.
You bring up a good point because Yeah, you are just in the last city, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Because the connection you're supposed to make is like the helm has crashed, so we need a new place of operations. But you don't have anything between the crash and like setting up this whole jail and a whole apothecary, and like all of the people there like are living there and selling things. There's a whole market now, so it would have been nice if there was even like an ink block cutscene of just like building stuff or. You can even add some audio effects. 2 weeks later, audio effects, cling, cling, cling. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. You know, maybe they ran out of resources and/or time. But yeah, it was a little jolting. But it was fine once you realize where you are.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It was great. Yeah. When I first walked into there, I was like, ooh, this is nice. Like, I like this. You see the Elixni having a picnic, and you've got like people selling food, and it was really, really good. I really liked the area.
I have to say, I'm going to put it out there now. I think there is so much detail. It was surprising. That's part of, again, all that was jolting. I was like, wait, a whole new space. We've always wanted to be in the last city more than just like a PvP or Onslaught map and we're there now. And then you realize you're walking around just like all this detail. I think this is obviously right. It's going to stick around and be reused for a while. You don't go through that much building of a location. It's more detailed than the helm, by far. And in my recollection, right, it's even way more detailed than any, when we used to jump through portals in the helm, maybe go to like a temporary space, but usually recycled spaces and stuff. So anyway, I see this being used quite a bit now, which I think is exciting to have the last city as a location.
Yeah.
If accurate.
New base of operations. Yep.
So I really like it visually. Like, it's funny because I maybe it was just me having played Destiny for 10 years, but I like walk down to the little water's edge and there's like not much going on.
Too.
A couple benches and a little aqueduct, and I looked up at the tower. And I thought that was just a really cool moment and feeling for fans. And that wasn't even something that they invite you to do. And I don't know, I really appreciated that. It felt like a strong opening overall of the just episode Revenant, right? It opens up with like cutscene stuff mixed with ink blot storytelling, right? They've been doing more of this to give you like an intro to the story in an exciting like teaser way.
I did really like nice. The intro, by the way. Yeah, I really liked like the setting up of who Fickrel is, what happened with Aldrin and Forsaken. Like they took you through just a very basic setup of like, here's the basic info you need to know for this season. I really liked that. I thought that was a good intro.
Yeah, like honestly, I'm so bad with keeping track of all the story details. I was like, oh, Aldrin is like Fickrel's daddy and all that. And I don't remember. I'll be honest, I don't remember all that.
They are the dads together.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aldrin accidentally made a Kara wish and brought Fickrel back to life. After being killed.
And now his child wants to get together with his dad to create more children. So
yeah, it was a cool setup though, and
actually accurate, actually lore accurate.
But it was a cool setup, and I think that's where I do see the difference with the episodic structure. It's not that different. We've talked about this a number of times, but I've always noted it's just these little things. Granted, now we got a new social space, so that's big, but meaning that it's cohesive and they're using some really good assets to like set up the story. And I was excited to be like, at least see the beginning to episode 2. So you get that. Yeah. You get this big cutscene of the helm crashing. And actually, I don't even remember. There's not too many scenes either. And again, these are little details I appreciate, but in that scene in the helm, when the window cracks open and your in-game character, and I hope you were wearing something cool.
I was wearing the Plague Doctor armor.
Yeah, it's always funny when you're wearing the wrong thing. But the animation of like you're grabbing onto the side and like you don't see your guardian as often in that moment. You're normally just kind of standing somewhere. But that was a lot of animation and like so it was cool. It was really nice to see. Again, small touches that go a long way for me.
Yep. So the other thing was the Onslaught activity.
Onslaught,
which is in the PvP map.
Yeah, they added so they've got the Gambit, the old Gambit map in there. That's in there for Onslaught now. You've got Widow's Court, and then there's like a Europa looking place.
Yeah. I like that's the one that they put you into, I believe, right? Or maybe it was just in the playlist, then it was a coincidence of where you end up. But I went to Europa
I was on
first.
Europa
Is that
first, yeah.
Yeah, I did Widow's Court.
Oh, really? So it might have just been the playlists that they bump you into, right? But yeah, I mentioned this maybe the last episode, like I'll be curious to play more and see how they use all the different maps. But I liked the Cosmodrome just for the location. I actually liked Europa too. Like it feels cool to be on the edge of that map. And in other words, not something I've spent a lot of time in PvP. So but yeah, honestly, it felt great. Onslaught felt really good. They added the turret, the season pass.
Yeah.
Oh,
The turret from like D1 where you're, in a PvP map hopping on a turret and shooting people.
Those
and then
Halo.
you also have the like airstrikes. There's an airstrike that you can get to.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that yet.
Yeah.
It's like a little. Was it a ball? Oh no, it was like a
It's
laser
like a box
designated
or something, and then you can like
Yeah.
put it
You
somewhere.
like target an area, then you get Rasputin lasers.
Yeah.
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 But
laser beam.
But that's it. I mean, it's interesting because you're like, oh, well, I've played Onslaught before. And you're like, well, this is Onslaught Salvation. They've made some new maps, but also there are some adaptations to how it works and some new reward structure things and all that. But, it is a fan favorite mode. Into the Light, and of course, you can still play this as part of the Vanguard playlist, which I forgot for a sec. Of course, you could just still play Onslaught, which is part of the Vanguard playlist for free. And then these are part of the episode. Which are all the new maps and stuff. And I found it interesting to like kind of monitor Steam concurrence and stuff, by the way, and it did see its biggest bump since it's fallen basically to really low numbers. So I attribute that to Onslaught. I couldn't tell you that it's not the story or the Slayer Baron looks of Bloodborne and vampires, and I'm pretty sure it's Onslaught. I mean, would you guys agree that if people seem to have come back just for this week for now, do you think that Onslaught is what brought them back, or do you think it was just episode 2 because 1 didn't do it?
Well,
the Exotic Mission didn't do it.
I think the theme of episode 2, they did a pretty good job of hyping up like the Vampire Slayer, which is
the metal.
To be honest, pretty light. Like it's quite superficial.
Light. Yeah,
like a lot of that's in the marketing, which is fine. Like it's just like the gear looks like it, and like the whole tonic thing. Like it is just the wrapper, really. Like the gameplay's not anything different, vampire wise, which you wouldn't expect. But like they did a pretty good job at selling like the trailers and stuff. Like, oh yeah, vampire Slayers. Like, oh, actually, I'm just hunting elixir, really.
Yeah,
the vampire looking gun. Like.
But it's a good word, packaged. It's packaged.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I'm just, this is me. I don't think that would bring back a huge increase of players. I think that it's Onslaught, but you can't prove that there's no, Bungie may know.
I have no idea.
But in other words, you would have to, so here's what's interesting, by the way, is that if you don't own episode 2, and as a reminder, as part of the final shape, episode 1 was included. So there are some people that are coming back and they're like, oh, I'm going to check it out. And they're like, wait. And they might even be confused too, which is why I brought it up, that Into the Light was free. And you're like, oh, more Onslaught. And then you're like, anyway, you come in and you see all this. They actually sample you into, I believe, the first Onslaught match. And then if you don't own it, it's after that you're on that quest step. And you go to click like to do so. And it's like, you need to buy episode Revenant.
Yeah.
For about $15. Yeah, which I think is fine. But it always confuses me because I buy the annual pass.
Yeah,
I think
a lot of people do. Well, I mean,
track it down.
To answer your previous question, I think a lot of Destiny players have always bought the passes, right, where you get like the expansion and all the upcoming seasons or episodes. And I think there was probably more expectation on episode 2 as well, just because of how episode 1 landed. And this is a new episodic model to see how they're different from seasons, and so maybe that's why people have returned and it was packaged nicely to have a quick look at it.
And I gotta say, I like what they've done with Onslaught. It's like, because in the original Onslaught, you would go onto like pyramids and fight the Shadow Legion, whereas now you're going into like jails. You're fighting Scorn to like break elixir out of jail. So that's like an entirely different thing in the in-between sections as well, and like the bosses are different. So they've actually added quite a substantial amount of stuff to Onslaught to mix it up. And I think they've done a great job with that. It's something that I've wanted them to do for a long time, is take stuff they already have, and make additions to it when people like it, rather than being like, okay, people really like this thing, let's try and make another thing that people love forever. Because I wanted to see them do that with Menagerie, right? Like adding other rooms and other bosses and more loot to it, rather than just being like, okay, Menagerie's gone, next. So that was nice to see. I think they have done a good job with the additions to Onslaught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, so far, I think Myelin put it well, which is like, well, still Destiny. Ultimately, beneath the package, it's very similar, but again, I would point out some, there's some really nice parts. The new social space, the style of the episode, the opening cutscene.
There's a lot of new loot too. Like a lot.
The tonics also, like more targeted loot as well with the tonics you can craft. The whole like new system for tonics.
To me, that's combat. I haven't done much of the tonic stuff yet, and I know it's not quite the same, but it still can't help but feel like baking cookies to me.
I don't think there's a lot of reward in walking between a hologram bench and then a
shelf
cabinet and then a brewing potion section. But yeah, I guess you got to kind of like find a way to get your blueprint somewhere, your ingredient list, and then pick your ingredients up and then go over there and taste test them to brew the tonic.
Sometimes you turn into a chicken.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Then when you do
I
taste
turned
test.
invisible once.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the taste. So with the potion stuff, they had a little bit of fun that when you go up, you do a taste test, they actually pull the camera out the third person again. And like a small detail that I think goes a long way. And like sometimes it's normal, and sometimes apparently, you turn into a chicken. I turn invisible. I believe there's other stuff happening.
Oh, yeah.
So
I saw
fun.
the invisibility. Right.
It's cool that they had a little bit of fun with that. Even though, like you're saying, you're like, how many times are we gonna have to go up and do that? You can craft a bunch at once, so I think people get used to.
Yeah, people would just do batches, I'm sure, and just batch make a bunch at once. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think probably what I saw a lot of comments about is how lean the story is once you take out all the filler, because this is what we were kind of placing bets on before, is like, are you going to have like 6 weeks or however long an act is normally? Like, are you just going to have 6 weeks of data collection, or are they just going to kind of, let you do it once and then just get your story mission and your end story mission or the bits and pieces in between? And I actually think they trimmed it down, right? Like there wasn't
it seemed trimmed down.
There wasn't a full act of like data collection. So you still had a lot of in between like holograms and pages of text.
Yeah.
But it actually wasn't too overbearing. And some people complain about it. Some people say, well, I'd rather just do 90 minutes of that and get the story and then go play, rather than it be drawn out with more.
Yeah.
I would have liked if they brought us to Onslaught more. Like, I think if there was some steps where it was like, go and free X amount of Elixir in Onslaught, for example, and then you get the next step. So I think that would have been like, that's filler, but I think it would be like filler that felt good, because Onslaught is fun to play. You're like, sweet, because they only take you into Onslaught once, and then they're like, now you got to go do this very boring thing on Europa and Nessus and whatever. When I would have preferred to just be like, go free 20 Elixir and go play Onslaught to a free Elixir and then do more. But they did cut out a lot of stuff. It felt like there was, if you experience this exact package once a week, it's like a 10-minute mission and you're done for the week.
Well, I mean, this was my exact criticism of episode 1.
Yeah.
Is if you actually read what like story they were giving you, they were just repeating the same thing. Like episode 1 did this a lot, which was just basically failsafe saying we need more data. Like they were just saying it in different ways.
Yeah.
And didn't actually progress.
We're still
the
researching.
Story. Yeah. And so I think what happens is when you cut all that filler out, I think it makes it really obvious that it's pretty light.
But it's funny that I get that sentiment, but did we ever really think that That it wasn't light, in other words? Like, meaning I thought that was
Well,
the general.
I think people didn't believe me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like it was so much back and forth data, and you had even said it of Echoes. You're like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, you're just researching on Nessus, but there's not much happening other than a couple of these big moments with the conductor, and we did get that once it's pieced all together. But yeah, meaning I don't know that I ever feel like going back to the beginning of seasons that it ever had lots of story. I bring it up because I feel like there's always this expectation or commentary, and it's like, I don't know, man. And I'm like, but it's a season. Why are you expecting an expansion? And this is why I bring it up. Do you think there's confusion there, or am I reading it wrong? It's always something I bring up. I'm like, tell me what season had like some incredible story.
I think the reason I have a bug in my bonnet, a bee in my bonnet about this is I felt like when they rebranded to episodes, they were promising to make not just the story, but the kind of gameplay systems less repetitive. And I felt like when they acknowledged, like, hey, we know this is very formulaic. We know this is kind of like vendor text chunk, do this. And they say, we're going to rebrand, like, let us cook. And I feel like the cooking was really just the time frame. It's just basically longer seasons rather than anything that's more engaging. I'm more upset about that conversation than if they just hadn't said anything and it was just like, hey, it's just longer seasons. Like, this is where we're at.
They hyped people up. And I think it's the same problem with saying we're releasing all of Act 1 at once. And they didn't even say it that way, that it caused hype and confusion. And so in a way, they're like trying to listen and say, hey, we hear you, and trying to be transparent. But because of the way that message, was delivered, I think that it lets people down, inevitably.
Yeah. I think there's also like another conversation, because someone said to me yesterday, like, oh, Matt, why are you expecting it to be anything more than an MMO? Like this is like pretty standard MMO fetch quests. And I think that's a fair comment. Like, I think that's probably what you expect in a season.
$15 packages. I mean,
yeah, with a loot and shooter too. But I also don't think that's a reason to not try to get better story and lore and to try to encourage Bungie to experiment and do different things with how they tell stories. Like, they were known as master storytellers in the past, and I just feel like they've lost a lot of that ability. And that's why I'm highly critical of it, because maybe we can get a little spark back, and I don't think it takes much to get a spark back. And they're well known for breaking the mold, and when it comes to telling stories during seasons, they are well and truly in the MMO mold of like fetch quests. And it's universally, everyone will say fetch quests kind of suck. You just skip over everything, and I think Bungie could do better. I don't know if they could do better in a season. I don't know if they could do better for $15. But I was under the impression that's what they were trying to work out.
Yeah, no,
with episodes.
They absolutely can do better. I think it's how they're. It's interesting to hear you talk about it, because, like, to me, when I hear this stuff, it's like, but wait, there's fetch quests, and that's like quest structure and stuff. And sometimes, there's some lore dumps in there. However, ultimately, there is just the story, which I remember I constantly was talking to you about with Echoes. I'm like, I thought the story was interesting for the echo drop and the conductor, and it set something up, and I was like, I seem fine with it. It's just that it's so stretched out, 1 week to the next week and then a wait, and then to come back, and then so I have a lot to say about how I feel about launching it all at once, but I don't want to go off on that until it's time. You guys have said your part.
I think we can get there now, because I guess that's like the delivery, right? Like, that's the bit that I have issue with is the delivery of it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give my impressions on that, which is, okay, it's Act 1, which is normally about 3 weeks. There might be like one final cutscene I'm still trying to piece that together. If they had said something that there's one, final little beat before Act 2. But anyway, yes, it exposes, as I often talk about, like, Bungie wants you there every week. The whole system of seasons is designed to get player engagement in there every week for a certain amount of time. And, I joke about it tongue in cheek, but it's like, it's time that you spend in the game, and therefore you're more likely to open up the store and buy something. And like, the whole game is designed around having you there every week. And to me, this just further shows and proves, like, while we're really over it, and it exposes the problem of like, look, if you want to just tell this cool story and actually have like a good gameplay structure with a quest, then you should focus on that. And in other words, for me, I ended up playing all these steps. So yeah, you start, and to me, it starts strong, right? Cutscene, big scene, new social space. Okay, have a bit of a chat, but then now they want me to immediately, they send me down somewhere to go pick up like a crystal in the snow or whatever. And I'm like, it's a fetch quest. So I come back, and then I got to do like another one. And then I'm like, I actually, at that point, I'd only played one thing at Onslaught. I'm like, man, I want to play more Onslaught. And
I
like,
felt that as well. Yeah.
I literally was like, it said something. I said, I haven't done anything yet. Like, you've destroyed the pace of this. I think Ido's literally next to me, and I'm talking to her through a holo projector and then running backwards and forwards between the ingredients table. It's like, yeah, it ended up stacking a lot of, and you know what? I think that's because they cut out those in-between parts of collecting things. So you ended up with like quite a wad of like text to skip.
yeah.
Pretty
Dude,
much.
I really wish
it did ruin the pace a bit. Yeah,
it did. Yeah, and I think that I don't know what their plan would have been if they were releasing this week by week, but it would have been really nice to have more Onslaught involved in it, because of course you can go and play Onslaught. You don't have to like beeline the story and do quest to quest to quest to quest. But there wasn't anything that brought you back to Onslaught. And that's like the highlight of the season.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, you know? And actually, even as a better example of that, they say you only have to do 3 waves to get the first quest done. And, you know, it's just 10 in a playlist. And I'm like, this is fine. I'll do another 7. Like, yeah, I'll stay in the playlist. I'm not trying to rush through, because I actually enjoy the game, like, to its credit. Like, that's good. But the point I'm making here is, and I've felt this way for a long time, like, this weekly engagement thing, I have never liked. I've never liked that with games like this. This is a personal thing, is that I don't like to be in a game as like a job practically, meaning as a podcaster or a content creator. I'm like, I feel like Destiny has been such a job because they're trying to get me into the store. I mean, look, it's the reality of it. But they have so much good stuff at the core. And the point I'm trying to make here is that Bungie, hopefully with Frontiers, and this is more of a focus, like they've got a decision to make, which is stop trying to drag me through to get me to log in. And I know this is the live service problem. So I'm like, let Onslaught speak for itself. And if you want to have this cool new social space and some potions, it should be fun at its core. And again, it should speak for itself. You shouldn't have to drag me to old locations to increase my engagement time. And the point is, you see it like piling up now in a way that you're like, we're asking, well, what can they just release the whole episode at once? And I'm like, that might make it even more painful, because you feel like you're just trying to get it done, you know? So again, I want at the core the gameplay to be like, log in, these cutscenes are cool. Things need to happen to push you forward to the next step that keeps it fun. Is a simple way to put it. As soon as you put in stuff that you're dragging out time, I think it's a disservice to the longevity of Destiny 2, especially after 10 years. We're just like, you're pushing me away, that I keep logging in and you're trying to drag me into more engagement time. So that's how I feel.
I mean, along that note, though, I think what they've done at the moment is trying to let Onslaught speak for itself. I know there was a couple like bits and pieces in there where we did something else instead of Onslaught, or you know. But it wasn't a hell of a lot, you know. If you weren't making cocktails every half an hour, I think it was, you know, like 90 minutes of kind of getting into it, right? And you're done with Act 1,
right? But it's not fun, is it? Is my point. Was it any fun to go somewhere and pick up a crystal to make a cocktail? You know what I mean?
The cocktail fun was fun. But I guess this is why they're experimenting with it, right? Because they want to see if they still retain player engagement by giving you the full Act 1, and whether Onslaught can stand on itself, or whether an episodic activity can stand on itself, and they have good enough loot and a good enough gameplay, whether people will come back each week. And I'm guarantee if those numbers don't hold up, they'll go back to weekly time gates.
But it's not just the weekly time gates, right? And I know you get, but just to reinforce it, like, let me be more productive, which is if I look at the 3 weeks that rolled out, like I said, I like the cutscene, the opening, the getting to the social space. I don't even mind talking to Ido for a sec and setting up potions. That's fine. But then it's these other filler steps, fetch quest type steps. That's where I get immediately bothered that I just wanted it actually to end. Just end it. I'm going to go. I would have popped into Onslaught. I might have even played for a longer period of time, but because I'm like trying to get these quest steps done, to me, it's getting in the way of the fun. And yeah, so you just basically were saying it, like, launch Onslaught, only tie yourself to these really cool cutscenes and moments, keep it really tight is what I'm saying. And then we could talk about what maybe is coming next with Act 2 and 3. There seem to be some hints in the potions and stuff, but just
there is
the good stuff, cut the fat, and see how it goes. Yeah, to make me a lot happier is just cut out all the engagement steps.
Yep. Chat's talking about the live stream, and I do remember that they having this conversation again about like non-linear storytellings and experimenting with a whole bunch of stuff with Frontiers, and that's great. I mean, that's basically what I'm talking about. But I'm also kind of like fooled me once. Like I've felt like you gave me this speech when it came to episodes. So, like let's see how Frontiers pans out with your storytelling and your gameplay loops.
Yeah, because non-linear doesn't solve the problem I'm talking about. Like, you can let me choose where I go, but if you send me to go back to the EDZ to pick up like a sample of something, I'm like, I just don't want to do that. Like, I'm happy to play your new content. So to me, I don't really care whether it's linear or not, but I think that'll be fun and interesting for whatever that expansion. It's the first one. This first half is the one that's non-linear. We don't know about the second half.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Anything else to comment on Revenant?
I think we should note, because it's in the potions and stuff. I guess if you hover over them, I don't think it's spoilers. Have you guys seen this of like what it's hinting what's coming next?
Yeah, Act 2, it seems that we're going to be getting Prison of Elders. So Act 1 is like Onslaught is the thing. Act 2, Prison of Elders is the thing. Act 3, Exotic Mission.
Can we confirm if Holtzman is Varix?
The Tomb of Elders.
Because somebody in chat was very adamant, non-joking.
Oh, they weren't joking? No, it's not Holtzman.
Okay.
No.
They were joking.
Pat was always just like... it's the first impression that he was doing when Prison of Elders was in the game and he was still streaming and making videos and stuff. Yeah, he would do the impression.
Maybe it is though.
It was before he was at Bungie. He was still on Planet Destiny.
Because Varix does sound different, to be honest.
Do you think we took over for the voice actor?
Didn't we went through this with Failsafe as well, right? That people believed that Failsafe was different. Is that true? Remember?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it was Failsafe. So I think part of what's happening is the audio quality and sampling.
The audio quality is different, yeah.
And the writing, so the writing style, I think it's really solid. But even, when I was listening to Varix, I realized we heard a bunch more dialogue, and he talks really slow.
He does, yeah.
Because he's so old. And so anyway, I felt that way too. I was like, is this the same Varix? I'm like, yeah, it's the same Varix, but it felt a little different at first. So I don't know. So yeah, I'm excited. The reason I brought that up was like, hey, again, as a reminder, this is just Act 1. We really can't, we don't know the full story, and hopefully some of these cooler beats with this whole theme. So hopefully it'll be exciting.
The
Plague Doctor armor in the store is very cool. They're also adding magical girl armor in the store, which will be like Sailor Moon
armor.
Sailor Moon kind of themes, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yep, pretty cool. I think no, go ahead. My overall impression is I think it's a solid season. I'm gonna keep calling it season because they're literally abandoning episode when Frontier happens. So
and it has a season pass. So
it has a season pass. But I think
it's basically the same as the season.
It's the same as the season. I think it's a solid season. I think the making doing the alchemy thing, I could see as a way that they've probably just tried to make it different from just the rows of things that you unlock. And they're like, let's try and give you something a little bit different. I think they did do a genuinely good job with updating Onslaught. I think adding like, what is it? I think it's 3 maps.
Yeah.
3 maps and turn them into Onslaught maps is great. One we haven't seen forever because it's an old Gambit map that they ripped away forever ago. And the theme was cool. And I really, really liked that intro cutscene. And the cutscenes in general, I think, have been solid. So I think if you are a fan of Destiny, I think that this is a solid season for you to play. And there's a lot of new weapons for you to get that I've heard are quite good. I've seen Lego all on the timeline, excited about all the weapons. So
nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Onslaught Salvation is fun. Onslaught's fun. I think it's in a good place in terms of the actual core content once you get past some of these, fetch quests. And again, we'll see how that goes forward. It's nice to have it out of the way after the first week too. So this will be the first time for all of us here, right, that we've been able to knock it out, and like maybe I'll come back. I have, I'm going to check out the dungeon and play a bit more and sort of see how that feels without having to do steps. So there is the other side of it.
Yeah, true.
Speaking of the dungeon, they did put out a trailer. Vesper's host trailer. They did put it out. It looks like we're from the trailer that Atrax is in here. Because we never actually defeated Atrax. It was like, just went away.
Right. I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
okay.
So Atrax is in there. And they're kind of hinting at some like time stuff. Because at the beginning it shows the Guardians in one area, and then at the end it goes back to the same area and says something about like time.
Broadcast repeats.
Repeats.
So
Some timey-wimey's going on. Timey-wimey's.
Yeah, as a video person, it made me go back and be like, you know what? How did they structure this? So it is interesting. The trailer is a complete bookend. It starts as it begins, and it starts with like, it actually starts by saying something like, the last broadcast is blah, blah, blah. And then it ends with the same shot, broadcast repeats. And they also they use a rewind sound. And they actually are showing. So there's something going on with that. I don't know what that means really in terms of the content and the story, but it looks like a cool dungeon. Yeah, it's very what's the word? It's the spaceship and what the Deep Stone Crypt kind of ish vibes.
Clovis Bray, yeah.
Clovis Bray, Exos.
It's
kind of
an unknown transmission has been intercepted from a derelict Bray tech station, and you're investigating it.
Yeah, and to me, the parallel is almost like, Event Horizon stuff. Like there's this derelict something ship with these exos on it that have been like maybe infected or not. There's talk of some infection or something too, right? Which is in theme with this season. So I don't know. I think it looks really cool. And hey, by the time you listen to this, people will be racing for the dungeon contest mode. And we'll have more to talk about on that next week. But I'm excited to check it out. It looks cool. Remember, you have to have the dungeon key to play it. It is not part of the $1,500 silver dollars, episode.
Yep. I've got some stuff here from the TWAB about the dungeon race, if you want to hear that. So contest mode will be enabled for 48 hours, and then the normal mode will unlock once the first 3 teams clear the dungeon. You got to be at 1985 power level to be at the cap for all the encounters. Entry requirements. You need 3 players. Start the Vesper's Host dungeon in contest mode from the planet system map. You will need the dungeon key, called the final shape dungeon key, like Fran said. And you need to go see Spider to get the Rogue Network quest. And then the completion criteria we've previously spoke about, which is you got to unlock. Everyone's got to unlock the final chest. So not just go to orbit, but unlock the final chest to be recorded. And at least one member has to have completed and received loot for every encounter as well.
And that one's new, I think. So one member must have completed and got loot.
Yeah. And no other members can have already completed it. And it must be the first time completing activity for all members of the fire team.
Yep.
There's also an interesting note here about the disabled items list, just saying that some items and perks will be disabled, but they haven't told you which yet. and it will be posted no later than an hour before the dungeon launch.
That's
like
really rough if it's an hour before.
Wild.
Or you're like, okay, there goes my entire build and everything I was going to use. I got to make a new one.
Yep. And as of recording this, that's like in about 12 hours or something, I think, right? So,
Yeah.
not going to be, I think, they're just reminding, hey, we might find some stuff, and just be ready with alternates if you're serious about contest mode.
Yeah, I think, there's usually a habit of something popping up just before these things go live, right? That's completely busted. So I guess
even things are like a little bit better than they should be. They're like
the
get that out of there.
Stuff.
And it is only disabled in the dungeon, by the way. So if any of this stuff pops up and people are like, I can't play with the thing, as long as you're not doing the dungeon, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's just a dungeon.
But make sure to check their feeds if you are planning to compete.
Yep. You've got an emblem for contest mode. There's also like the hoodies that you can buy and other bits and pieces you can purchase from the Bungie store if you complete it.
Yeah, and maybe a point of clarity on that, right? What we got 48 hours. That dungeon contest mode is up, and although once the top 3 are in, normal mode will become available. Of course, you should be able to have 48 hours to get this contest mode emblem if you so decide.
Yep.
Yep.
They're also doing the dungeon race on Twitch Rivals as well. So if you're not participating and want to just watch along to see how people are competing, I mean, how long do you think this is going to go for? I mean, it's part of Twitch Rivals. It must be pretty confident it's not going to be over super quick.
Dungeons are normally pretty fast, right? Aren't they?
It's hard to say. We've never had contest mode for a dungeon, so
True.
No idea.
I would just
my ad.
To me, if a lot of raids fell in the raids, right, contest raids in the 6 to 8 hour-ish, I'd observed quite a few of those, except for the outliers like the last one and the last witch, which were like 24 hours. I would expect this to be more in the 3 to 5 hour range, unless they do something insane, and then they have another. What was the name of the heart room? The pale heart room.
Yeah, that encounter.
It's funny, I forgot that. I'm erasing that trauma from my brain right now. But yeah, unless they do something super crazy, I mean, dungeons aren't as long as raids and stuff anyway. So
Yeah.
I think
they are actually doing like a bunch of other community things too. So they have like a Vespers host speed run from 14 different regions with like team captains and a bit of a winning fire team with $1,000 worth of Twitch subs. Okay, nice. Each. Well, there you go. So like US, UK, France, Germany, Australia, ANZ, Japan, Spain, Nordics, Poland, Italy, all of them on there. So each region have a team of 3. They're going to be racing to get through the dungeon on the 21st of October and the 29th of October. There seems to be another emblem giveaway as well from those streams. And then another one called Baron Bingo. I'm not too sure.
There's emblems everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah. So they're having a few different.
Really getting you back with the emblems.
Modes. Yeah. The other one is Baron Bingo with some team captains as well. So yeah, I mean, a lot going on around the dungeon for emblems.
And apart from just supporting all those people with hurricane relief, so you can get another emblem with the Bungie Foundation. They're going to stay tuned to the Bungie Foundation socials for how to donate and help out with all of that. And,
on Tuesday,
up for grab.
October 15th, that'll go live. So if you aren't already, giving to the disaster relief for that stuff here in the U.S., we've gotten rocked by a couple bad hurricanes back to back. On Tuesday with Reset, they're, encourage you to get involved and then have a really nice emblem as part of that, as they often do. So, But that was most of the 12, right? Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to, looks like fellow content creator and, guitarist who was in here. Is it Pigeon?
Yep.
Yeah, did like a little metal guitar riff, kind of playing into the metal over it, and got movie of the week. So congrats to them.
Nice.
It's a cool little vid. Check it out.
Yeah, I always love anything to do with music and these things.
Very nice.
So
also,
what's
shout
next?
out to Moodang with the Keitel cosplay. That was part of the art by Hexus.
Oh yeah, that was right before it.
Moodang.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, the little
Keitel Moodang.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hippo.
that's pretty cool.
little hippo. Yeah.
That's pretty cute.
I like that.
All right. Well, where do we go next from here?
Wherever
Guardians?
you guys want to go.
Well, let's reel off a couple of things to see what we've done. Did anyone play Diablo update? Yes, no. Okay, Fran's. Okay.
I feel like I'm in school.
Starfield update. Did you?
We talked
Fran
about that
did.
last week. I already did like a mini review of that.
He said it sucks.
Witchfire. I played Witchfire.
Yep, you guys can talk about Witchfire.
That. Halo Unreal Engine Switch.
Master Chief looks weird. That's my opinion.
Really?
Would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyone play Silent Hill 2?
I did.
Oh, what? Get that one. Okay, nice. Dragon Ball Z. What's it called?
I didn't play Sparking Zero. I did not.
I've been seeing a lot of that in my feed. Like a lot.
It's very, very
Dragon
good.
Ball.
Like if you are a Dragon Ball fan, this game is insane for you. Like the amount of characters they have and like the fights are actually kind of hard. And yeah, people are having a blast.
Well, we've got someone from everything. So why don't we just start at the top of the list? Diablo.
I also played
Diablo 4.
Metaphor. Because Metaphor ReFantazio is coming out tomorrow, but the prologue demo is out, so you basically get to play the first portion of the game, and then that progress carries over.
I have heard about this, and I've heard pretty good reviews.
I'd say maybe go. Let me form my thoughts on Diablo there. But Watts, you were just playing Metaphor on stream before you came here. Maybe.
Yeah. So this is it's a JRPG. It's by the people behind Persona, so same company.
It looks
Atlas.
very Persona-y.
It's like so if you don't know anything about that company, they are like known for their crazy menus and UI, where they recently had an interview where they're like, that's actually really annoying to make because they change their UI and menus and everything based on what's happening in the game and the characters. It's not just it's they're like, it's friggin' annoying, but it's really cool.
But we made it our thing, and now everybody expects it.
Seriously, over delivery. That's what I'm talking about. There you go. Over delivery. Be afraid of over delivery. And that their music is always banging. Like even people who don't play Persona listen to Persona music, and the music in this game is equally as fantastic. And the art and story and characters and world building, it's all like the peak of that. So this is more. I don't
know if I would like it or not. I think it's going to be, obviously it's a great game, but I want to like it, but I don't know if it's for me.
There's a lot of story, right? A lot of cutscenes. Okay. They are animated like a full-on anime though. So it really feels like I'm watching just like an anime with chat, which I can't do because it's illegal. So this way we get to do it legally.
It's cool. Okay, I can just download the demo.
Download the demo and see what you think. Yeah. Yeah, it's the first portion of the game, so you can just play that and see what you think.
God, I miss demos.
I know. Isn't it nice?
Let me try before I buy.
Here's the first part of the game. Buy the game if you like it.
I mean,
bring back
also the thing with,
E3.
like,
Let me get in
Steam
there.
Anyway, you can just get a refund if you don't play for 2 hours.
Yeah.
You might as well just You might as well just save yourself the trouble and do a demo.
Yeah, that's true.
It's because they got to develop it, but I'm 100%. All games should have some kind of demo. It'd be fantastic.
The cutscenes like full-on animations.
Yes, full-on like animations. Yep, yeah, it's pretty freaking incredible, and it's really good too. It's animated beautifully, and there's the story in this one. So Persona's like set in a school. This one is like fantasy kingdom. There's like politics and religion, and there's different tribes that are like different races almost. And there's lots of racism. Lots of racism. It starts out with straight up racism and someone being executed. So
okay.
They tackle a lot of like dark, serious subjects in there. And then it's turn-based combat, but you do have some combat outside of the turn-based where you can like hit enemies. And of course it's an RPG, so it's like full everything, changing your characters. There's a ton of different like job classes in here. There's a lot.
It unlocks in 1 hour. I'm looking at Steam page.
Yep. Also, I got this from Atlas, which was crazy. They sent me stuff. This is the bag from the protagonist. This is the protagonist bag with a little potion pouch.
Oh, little
that looks a lot
pouch.
Yeah.
Better quality than was it Fallout? What had the canvas bag?
I got
That was ended up being like a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
Put your little diluted potion of cracked stasis in there, maybe.
I'm really excited about the pouch. The pouch is really cool. Yeah, it's and the reviews have already come out for the game. It came out last week or at the beginning of this week, and it is one of the highest rated games this year. So I was like, well, we gotta at least play it a little bit. I'll show you guys the box. Bashy wants you to see the box.
Do I download and play it? That is the question.
I just can't imagine touching a game like that. It's got to be so many hours. Watts is showing the box right now.
It's a book. So he has a book. He has a book in the game, but this is what all the stuff came in.
Just for clarity, for those listening, the box
it's the size of
book
me.
thing is it's at least half the size of Watts herself.
It is. Oh, and also
Plus
they gave me a
pouch.
jacket too. There's a jacket as well.
Nice.
That's crazy.
Very cool.
Crazy stuff. But the game it's a very cool world.
Yeah, it's been getting good reviews and good feedback.
Yeah.
So if you're into that, in fact, I'm looking at Metacritic, which normally because there's so many reviews, everything is between like a 75 to 85. But this has got a 93 so far, at least on the PlayStation 5. So
very high up there. Yeah. So I was like, obviously these games are really long. I don't know if I'll be able to stream all of it because they are really long. But I was like, man, I have to at least get into it and experience the game that may very well be nominated for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be up
Yeah,
there.
well, it's funny. I was just Googling a few things. Wired headline from them says ReFantazio is the future of RPGs. Some strong feelings on this one.
Yeah, it's not just good reviews. I've seen people come out and be like, I am addicted to this game. I haven't experienced a game like this before. This is like all I can think about is this game. Yeah, they're like losing it. It is 80 hours if you beeline. So
yeah, which I can never do.
Me neither.
And I can do, but I don't often do.
Yeah.
I'm good at beelining, but only for like 10 hours.
I'm jamming out to the music. I'm just sitting there going, "Oh yeah!" I'm like, we can't do this for every track, guys. We're gonna be here forever.
Okay.
Nice. So okay.
I'm gonna play that on Saturday, like the full game. We're gonna play it on Saturday because tomorrow I'm playing the first Berserker Kazan. So I'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. Okay. Another Souls-like.
Definitely Souls-like.
First Berserker.
That's straight Souls-like.
Talking of Souls-like, I played Witchfire based on your suggestion, Fran.
Was I crazy?
Fran got Myelin excited.
I have no idea if he hates or loves it, so I'm curious.
Okay. I think it is an absolute fantastic game. It is
very cool.
The closest to a first-person shooter that feels like Destiny that I have played in the last decade, I reckon. It has Destiny's heart and soul in it. In a single-player game, not only from the gunplay, but the design, some of the animations, the effects with like your elements. So if you're looking for a first-person shooter, Witchfire, highly recommend. I didn't know how to take the extraction part because there's no other players to fight against, and often I find that's the appeal of extraction shooters is killing someone else and taking their gear. True. So I didn't know how that was going to play out, but the theme of it with it's like witches and wizards, kind of deal, right? And it's like a dark fantasy setting. They get the extraction portion pretty right, and I think that's because of the stress and how it is difficult. A lot of the time, you have, let's just call them Souls. It's actually closer to like first-person Dark Souls than it is an extraction shooter.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is feeling when you're playing something like Dark Souls and you're like, I've got all these points to upgrade. Do I risk it and keep exploring and potentially die and have to try and get back to it to get my points? Or do I use my points now to upgrade my skills? And that's basically what you do in this game is you kill enemies, you get Witchfire to upgrade your literal stats. Like your health stats, your healing stats, your magic stats, all that kind of stuff. But you're in a location, so you choose to extract when you want. But there is randomized where the extraction points are. So you might have to go through a bunch of enemies. You run out of ammo very often. And then it's also got the roguelite elements on top of that. So the more you do stay in the area, you actually start getting more powerful too.
Yeah.
Because you get a random selection of skills every like area you clear. So you can clear areas, get more and more powerful, and then you obviously get heaps of money. You're like, should I get out now and like bank these?
Yeah.
Or should I try to complete my objective? Because you also kind of have like an objective to complete while you're there, which might be like a boss or investigate something. So that's where the extraction element comes out.
Kind of takes that Dark Souls thing to the other level, right? Because you have that experience when you're playing those kind of games of like, I have 20,000 souls. Should I go back and rest and respawn all the enemies and level up? So it's taking that to like a more extreme level. I like that.
So nice. That's why I think it feels like that Dark Soulsy where you're kind of risking it. And there's rewards for pushing on, and there's also like, I'm gonna be really pissed if I lose like 20,000 souls. And then you do have an opportunity to get it back too. But the spawns are random and the enemies are randomized too.
Yes. The difficulty
so it has some of those roguelite elements as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be the word I would use 2 words. It can be suddenly brutal. Did you feel that was pretty common?
The game is too hard for me. I'm at a point now where I can't beat one of the bosses, and I need to invest time in like getting my stats up.
So actually, I'd be curious. How long did you play? And let's start there. Do you know roughly?
It's not like a huge amount of time.
Like 3 hours, 6.
Close to 7 hours.
Okay, so you got into it. Did you do the thing where you upgrade, your awareness called Gnosis?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Did you do that just once?
I've only done that once.
Okay. And that is what starts to upgrade the world too. Here's where I'm curious. Did you go, so what's interesting about Witchfire is you go, into these kind of mini worlds. That's where it's different than Dark Souls. Yeah, it's not like one big world with a bunch of rests. So you go in.
Think about like Destiny, and like you have like a hub world where all your upgrades are, like your permanent upgrades, and then you click on a planet or like a space that takes you into a raid.
It's almost like going to the EDZ, right? Except with areas that clear. It would work great. Again, I'm telling you, for a Destiny season in the future.
Yeah, it was like if EDZ, but all the enemies were like grandmasters.
Yeah. So anyway, when you upgrade that, when you went back, Myelin, did you experience anything where you're like, wait, like where are these enemies? These are new, and like, what's this new thing that's happening? Did you go through any of this?
Yeah. So I didn't really pick up on it first. It was only because people were watching and telling me like, oh, because you've like upgraded, like the world's changed and it's become harder too, and you've got like other enemies. So there's things like that are evolving in the game, which are pretty subtle. And I think you'd pick up on the more you play. But I probably wouldn't have noticed until chat probably told me about it.
Yeah. I'll only bring it up and I won't spoil it for folks. That's one of the things I love about it, is I went back somewhere. Not only you're like, man, it's harder, and I guess these are new enemies. There's like things in the gameplay events that you do, basically world activity events that pop up on you, and you're like, what is this thing?
Yeah. So I've had like a world event like Cataclysm, and at that point I was like, I had no bullets left. I had no heals left.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of Witchfire, and I was just running for my life to get out and to find the portal and to extract. Yeah. So there's, and I'm at a boss at the moment, which is really cool. Like, actually, boss with mechanics. It feels closer to like Revenant, kind of deal where you're a shooting game, but a boss that feels like Dark Soulsy. Like, it's got kind of mechanics to it.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear. Like,
so I can't beat him. I need to like level up.
As a great example where the game, it's still early access. We've got 3 out of maybe 6 areas. So, actually maybe pause on that. Did you feel like, hey, it's $40, it's early access. Would you recommend that people maybe just wait till it's got more updates and or is finished next year? Or how would you put it?
I would recommend it with the caution of, I feel like I've reached the roguelite portion. When you play roguelites, you're like, okay, I'm at like kind of the first blockade where the game probably wants me to farm a little bit and to like kind of find the guns that I really like and level them up a little bit and like really work on my permanent upgrades. And with any roguelite, you have to repeat like the stages, right? So I feel like I'm at that point now after about 7 hours where I need to do that. So I think I would recommend it, but with that warning, like, kind of expect that roguelite experience where you'll get to a point where you're probably going to have to repeat stuff to start leveling up. The repeating is fun though. Like I'm finding I'm experimenting with different guns all the time and different spells and like trying to work it out. But it's also pretty grueling. Like it is tough difficulty wise. So it's not like an easy grind. And similar to like the Dark Souls thing is like, if you're grinding, you can also potentially lose everything. So it's kind of like you're not necessarily banking everything. So you kind of playing it safe to grind your stats to get them higher before maybe you can progress on.
Well, that difficulty kind of maybe reminds me more of a roguelike, because when you're playing roguelikes initially, you're like, this isn't possible, because they expect you to like get upgrades and unlock new weapons and unlock new gadgets or whatever. Yes. Whereas in Dark Souls, you can technically beat every boss with like nothing, but roguelikes are definitely more so made for you to like get your ass beat until you got some stuff unlocked.
Yeah.
So like, that's the point where I got to. I was like, oh, how am I going to get through? So then I like unlocked a spell. It's pretty much Jolt from Destiny. Like you trigger it, and then when you shoot them, you just get like these jolts going. You're like, oh my god, now I can like clear ads. Like now I can clear big enemies.
You do start to feel that power. All I can say is, so I brought that up because I was like, well, and I stand by it. Last week I was like, you might want to just wait till it's all is one thing, so you almost like don't burn yourself out and fully experience it with all of these quality of life updates. However, as I put it as well, like if you're looking for something to play, like Myelin, you were saying, it feels very like Destiny meets Dark Souls, like right?
The Destiny, like it looks like I could put it side by side with a sidearm, running with a sidearm, and like you have a double jump. I don't know if that's just my class or not, but it feels like playing a Hunter double jump with the sidearm.
There you go. Yeah. If you're a Destiny player and you're looking for like a single player Destiny with challenging combat, this might be good for you.
So I bring that because it's like, if you're looking for something to play, because there's so many good things to play, but I think it's absolutely worth it, and get into it and just be ready that there's going to be cooler things coming. And so you haven't played the castle yet, I'm going to assume, Myelin?
Nope.
Dude, it's crazy. So like, as your mind continually gets blown of like, and that's the thing. So to finish this thought, Myelin, I didn't want to touch the castle. I don't know if you have it open yet. Because it felt too difficult. I almost thought I had to beat this boss first. And then I was like, wait, it's kind of a downside if you upgrade this Gnosis and stuff too quickly, because it gets so hard that you feel like you can't go anywhere else. Yeah,
so apparently that was changed based on feedback with the Gnosis. So apparently before, the game and world evolved and got harder as you just leveled your character stats.
Right.
So it's like you can never like progress.
This Gnosis level.
Then they change it to what's like, it's called Gnosis level. It's basically like perception in the world. So like you'll see stuff that's invisible and puzzles and like scripture and stuff that you can't access yet until you level up this book, this Gnosis book. And once you level that up, you start seeing things and perceiving stuff in the world, and like other areas open up. But it also makes the game harder. You see like
there's new enemies and things happening.
New enemies and stuff. So it kind of gives you a bit more control of when you make the game harder. But there's no indication that tells you that that it does that. It just kind of does it. And you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I think they need to work on that. Like I brought that up, and a huge fan of the game who started watching me stream it, who's played hundreds of hours or something, was like, no, they tell you. And I went back and looked, and I was like, no, they really don't. They say like the witch will become more aware and it will be difficult. You're like, yeah, well, of course, it's not like
you don't know what that means the first time it happens, though, right?
Yeah, in Resident Evil, old school, I think, or those old where it'd be like, it'd warn you that you might corrupt your save if you're not doing something right. It's like, bonk, like don't do this, when that's the type of warning it needs, that you might break the difficulty, so to speak. It's actually kind of neat
because it's kind of neat too. It's kind of fun. Like it's kind of a surprise to see the level like bump up, and they actually got a couple things. I think that whole system does increase the replayability of each level, because you are going to be playing the same levels kind of over and over again, and having the world kind of evolve did make it feel fresh, did make it feel different. And I see you can tell it's a good game. You say, I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
Because how you get to the first boss is like the epitome of a Destiny raid. The feeling of a Destiny raid, I feel.
It's that.
Fran, you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I know exactly why you're referencing what you're referencing. Yes.
I thought it was a Hellmouth. I was like, dude, these guys fucking play Destiny. That looks like the Hellmouth.
No, they've said
sure.
that. And that's where,
Have they?
like, yeah, they said this was inspired by both Destiny and Dark Souls heavily on their sort of
man.
There you
FAQs.
go.
Yeah.
You
That's
can
why.
see the Destiny
Trust
themes
me,
are crazy.
if you, so Watts, you have not played any Witchfire?
I haven't played. No.
Okay. So just put it down for later. There's more updates. You don't need to play it now. But let me tell you, Watts, I would love for you to check it out. And the castle I'm referencing in particular, it is a Dark Souls castle. It's insane how much of a Dark Souls castle with Destiny first-person shooting, feel it is. So it's a wild and very cool experience. And as you can, I think you're getting from like even Mile and I talking, it kind of makes you want to go back and play a few rounds, right? There's this itch to
so
it.
I think that's how I would play this game. Is I probably you probably play a huge chunk of like 10 hours where everything's kind of still new and fresh, and then maybe you hit that wall, and then this is kind of how I play these games. Is I'll come back and play a few rounds and play a few hours here and there until I can slowly level up my character to progress a bit more.
My advice would be, now that I've played more, is like, if you have access to the castle, because I went through this, is go to the castle and you realize like I actually I didn't fight this boss. I wanted to, and I got so distracted by so many other things. But I went to the castle, and then I was so enamored with the like, oh my God, like what is going on with this place?
I do want to play it.
I went 20 plus hours before I even touched this boss you're talking about. And then by that time I was Gnosis 3, just so you know. So I was terrified at like, but it actually kind of works itself out one way or another. Like you said, you just have to be ready to grind for some stuff and be cognizant. It is a punishing game in that sense.
It is punishing,
so, but that's what's cool about it.
Chat's asking, like, are you kind
good.
of really selling it? And I am more than happy to sell this game because I think
it's great.
It's also a small team that's behind this. Like it's an indie small team.
It's very polished. It is literally Destiny mixed, like single player Destiny mixed with Dark Souls. Is probably the best like analogy for this game, and it's fun. It's brutal, but it's fun.
I'm glad to hear that you were as excited about it as I was. I'm sure. So we'll get more on that maybe in the future, and maybe Watts will have time one day to check it out. But
yeah, I should have. Not at the moment, because there's like 7 quadrillion games that have released, but soon.
But as a reminder, because people were asking about it as well, it is just PC early access right now. They've said in their FAQs, and they have lots of info because it's in early access about where they're going with it. And they even have you in development. They're showing you areas, previews of it. So it's very outward communication, but no console yet. But it is so good. I would be shocked if they, at least by next year, don't announce that it's happening. But
I would assume they would. Yeah.
It could be into 2026 for consoles. I'm just speculating. But the game is supposed to come out in full late next year. So, should I talk about Diablo real fast?
Yeah.
Probably short.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about Diablo.
So, Diablo 4 has an expansion that's out, and let's get the clarification. They've had a lot of seasons, the Destinal season stuff, but that's all been free with like an ornament, vanity season pass. You can spend money to look cool if you want, but it's just been like, very fetch questy and some minor things. This is very different. This is a full expansion. So they're back. It's a $40 base price kind of thing. And so I came back after a 9-month break, and I really love like the core mechanics and feeling of Diablo 4. So I mean, of Diablo, period. I've just been a fan of the series for so long. And you always go back and you're like, oh, it's so Diablo, like, I don't know, click here, I'm in town. But that's some of the sentiment and magic of it. But the point is, I went back to it and like really just bawling, cinematic, beautiful Blizzard art cutscenes and a really cool setup, actually, that's easy to follow, even if you don't remember all the complexities of what happened in Diablo 4. They do a recap. And anyway, then you get into it, and they launched a new class, and there's a new area to play, right? And so that's more of what you'd expect from a full expansion. And I'm only about, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 hours. So too early to say, but they're also on top of this have been so many quality of life improvements that I haven't even touched, but I've, much like with Destiny, I have like all kinds of complaints about. I don't want to grind, up to tier 4, is it world tier 4, just the wait to get the cool loot and getting to like level 60 or 70. But usually by then I'll get burnt out, and I feel like I've missed out on some of the cooler things, right? These unique aspects and really cool builds that I want to experiment with. It is way more flexible now, especially if you've already played Diablo 4. So all I can say is I went from like, okay, 9-month break, new class, to it started to like wash over me again. I'm like, man, I really like Diablo games. Class is a lot of fun to play. It's drawing me forward. It feels really good. And so I can't really speak to how that's going to be. I'm about level 20. It's really usually until you get about like level, like I say, 60, 70 and get into the depth. They've got a bunch of new stuff. So I'll have more to say in the future, but all I can say is given its track record, if you're into Diablo and play Diablo 4, I don't see why you wouldn't play Vessel of Hatred. But otherwise, I'll have more to say on it in the future.
Yeah, I've heard people have been pretty happy with it, to be honest.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
So I've been hearing good things. I don't think I'll give it a shot, but yeah, I've heard good things as well.
I love how Diablo feels, so it's definitely solid, and I'm looking forward to finishing up the campaign of the expansion, but getting into the depth of. They've just reworked so many things that I know it's gonna suck me in.
Yeah.
So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Silent Hill 2. What?
Silent Hill 2. I didn't get super far in. So again, this is like 4 hours. It was like anytime we get scared, we're just like, we are brave. I sing my brave song. The ghosts can't touch me with my brave song. This is the remake of Silent Hill 2, full remake by Bloober. And it looks great, first of all. Like having that atmosphere.
Does look good.
Yeah, having the atmosphere of like all the fog and everything of Silent Hill, but in 2024, it looks really good. Of course, the camera's totally different because it's like a proper 3D third-person camera now. Instead of
I didn't play Silent Hill 2. It's like Resident Evil style set camera room. Yeah.
Yep. Combat's got like a pretty big overhaul, so that's like, it's more involved now. And
can you move and shoot, or do you have to?
You can move and shoot, yeah, and you clubber them. I think you can move and shoot. Maybe you can't. I haven't shot many things yet because I'm trying not to use too many bullets until I'm really scared. But you can move and bat. You can move and bat it's got spikes on it, nails in the bat.
Yeah. I've just seen little bits and pieces and heard that it's a really good remake and people are really happy with it.
It is. It's really good. Yeah, I've been having a ton of fun. It's got all the classic like puzzles from those games back in the day. The kind of puzzles that I can handle as someone who puzzles just destroy my brain and turn me into a blob. There's also there's actually difficulty settings for the puzzles. So there's a separate difficulty setting for like combat to the puzzles. So you can have like easy puzzles, hard combat, or you can do the other way around. Or you can have yeah, it's really cool. I've never seen that before. It's such a good thing, such a good addition.
So I can set it to toddler brain, like barely able to read.
Yeah, it's really nice because of my illness, I don't know why it's wired like this, but when I do too much brain power, like hard focusing, it brings on my chronic fatigue syndrome. So anytime a game has puzzles, I have to be really careful because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play this game. So if more games had the option of putting it on like the easy, I could still enjoy it, but
Does it just give you more hints, does it, of like what you need to do? Or does it change the puzzle itself?
I think it changes the puzzle. Like there's less steps for you to do sometimes in the puzzles. Like you don't have to do this step, this step, this step, this step to do the full puzzle. It's like, okay, you do three of these steps.
That's a lot of work for accessibility. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
That's a lot of work.
I've never seen it before, and that was like so good. But it's got all those classic things where you find a key and you're looking at it, you turn it over and it's got an image on it, and you're turning stuff around and inspecting, and it's got all that, and that's really addicting. I love that. And the story in Silent Hill is always, it's such a cool story, which I do want to fully experience.
I don't know anything about this. What's the basic premise of Silent Hill?
The basic premise, which wouldn't really tell you about the, at the end when you know everything, because it's all very mysterious, but it's
you're starting.
Your wife 3 years ago passed away due to cancer. You just got a letter from her saying that she's in this town. So you're like,
okay,
gotta go see what's going on. My dead wife is in a spooked out. What's going on there?
That's it. That's the start, right?
That's it. Yep. That is it.
And what's our background? Are we a reporter or something like that? Are we
we're the husband. Looking for
Just
a
a
wife.
husband.
Just
Right.
a husband.
His husband. No backstory.
Yeah, it's there. There's actually the creator of like, I know everyone knows Pyramid Head, even if you haven't played Silent Hill. Pyramid Head
Yeah.
and the nurses.
That's the only reason I know it.
Yep. The guy who's behind like all of their creation has been on Twitter kind of giving more insights into the Silent Hill story because he's like, people have got this very wrong. So,
Really?
Yeah.
The lore of Silent
It's very
Hill
cool.
fucking signed me up.
Yeah.
There it is, Myelin. That's your next big
it's really
swing,
well,
dude.
it's interesting because there's a lot of mystery, right? It's all based in mystery and puzzles and unraveling things that, story in those games is exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's been around for so long. I was trying to remember when the first Silent Hill came out.
I think
Yeah,
it was
late
90s?
It was when I was 11. I know that, which is, I don't know when that is.
I'll look it up
2001,
right now.
maybe 2001.
I see, maybe 1999, maybe. So anyway,
Yeah, around that
long time ago is the point.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it looks like
I'm
99.
assuming Resident Evil came first. Or did Silent Hill come first?
Oh, you know what it is, Watts? Silent Hill 2 came out in 2001. And
Oh, there you go. That's probably why I
there you
have it in
go.
my mind of like, I played this one when I was 11.
Yep.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I got to, when I was a kid, I basically got through the fog, made it into a building, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah. If you were
And I'm done.
that game, it's very creepy to play as an adult, let alone
It
a
is
kid.
it's very creepy. The way the audio that they have is just like the eerie like "Nying" audio. And you're
Yeah,
like,
to
why
me-
is this so scary music?
Yeah. The dissonant pitch in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, Silent Hill always felt like Resident Evil was a certain brand of survival horror, but a game and fun. But Silent Hill was always like really over the top with like, this is creepy AF.
Yeah,
And it
that's how
kinda
I
has
felt as a kid.
maintained.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I played Resident Evil as a kid. Although in Resident Evil 1, when I left the mansion and then came back to the mansion, that's when I'd be like, Mom, you can take over. It was a little scary. But I played Resident Evil as a kid and I was like, I can handle that. Like there's obviously some scary things in Resident Evil, but Silent Hill was like really creepy.
Yeah. Persistently
Right.
creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you made me want
But
to
that's
play
the
this
thing.
too. Guys, there's
I
only
mean,
so many
it's
fucking games I can play
October,
a week.
Mylan. You could
Jeez.
just plan to do like a Halloween stream of Silent Hill. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until Dawn
like that.
also had come out. I didn't
Every
didn't
time
play
I
that, but
every
the remake.
every jump square I get a cocktail.
yeah, yep. That
oh
would
God!
be so funny.
Here he goes.
That'd be amazing. I
Back
would
to
love that.
tutus and wrestling. Here we go.
Yeah, I definitely will
talking-
play more. I will play more. I think I'm gonna play Still Wakes the Deep for our Halloween stream. Is my
yes,
plan,
yes,
like
yes.
on the actual like spooky Halloween day. But then Resident Evil, Silent Hill, I want to play throughout October, and because it's not that long. Like those games tend to not be that long because who wants to be scared for 80 hours? That'd be
Right.
awful. They don't overstay their welcome. So yeah, I want to get through it. It's very cool. I like it a
Oh,
lot.
speaking of which, it's just worth noting they announced Alien Isolation 2 is
I was
gonna
literally
be
about to
coming
say
did?
something.
Oh, there
I
you
was
go.
like, talking of spooky stuff, Alien
Spooky-
Isolation 2. Have you guys played the first?
just a little bit.
Yeah, I played it when I was doing like viewer voting for games. I played a bit of a chunk of it, and yeah, I mean, obviously it's a very suspenseful, good game, very atmospheric, pretty cool. So
Yep.
Alien
Yeah, it's
Isolation 2 would be
exciting
great.
that it's coming back. Yeah, we used to do this series on IGN, and I think it was the first one we did called "How Scary Is." ...
Oh,
Alien
yeah.
Isolation. You can actually find me in there. I'm playing it
Oh.
many years ago. Of like we would just
Gotta
keep
watch
basically
that.
we put night vision on in our, we call it a little demo room, and people would be in there in the dark with the night vision, and we would just try to capture like moments where they really
jump
were
scares,
scared. Yeah, and it definitely worked. It was a scary game for sure. So there's a lot of people excited.
Halo.
Yes,
Halo.
this is huge news.
It is huge news. It is actually like.
I'm
really huge
interested
news.
to hear Fran and Watts.
You know, Mylan. You know what I think? I think Halo's gone woke. That's what I think.
God.
Why?
Is that just because it's big news, or is
There
there
was
actually
women
some
in
thread?
that video. All right, I saw women.
This wasn't an
Women.
actual narrative, though, right?
Oh no, it is.
Please
Yeah,
don't.
no, it totally is.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no, it really is.
The announcement video is getting this type of feedback.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes,
man. What is
listen,
wrong with the
listen.
world?
I didn't see
there's
that.
some section of that whole gone woke thing, although I don't think they even say gone woke. There's a whole section of like, if you're going to represent minorities, don't represent them as stereotypes. Like just have like a person who happens to be a black man in your game. You don't have to like make stereotypes of that black man to have them in your game. So that makes a lot of sense. But then you slowly realize that most of it is there's a woman on the team. There's a black person on the team. There's a black woman on the team.
So stupid, man.
And they've gone woke. I have no faith. And yeah.
These people expose themselves pretty quickly.
They do. You don't even have to say anything. They will expose themselves.
So moving on from that, the huge news is that Halo is 343 is no more in a name brand, and they are reimagining themselves as Halo Studios. And as part of this whole thing, they're switching to Unreal Engine 5. If you didn't know, Slipspace engine has been around forever. In fact, maybe there's some hooks that even go back to Bungie. And so they're working on multiple projects as well as Halo Studios. And so is that a good rough setup, or I miss?
Pretty much. And I guess the backstory is that managing Slipspace is too time intensive is kind of what I was picking up, and that they wanted to increase that pipeline of being able to get content out. And they said that they felt like gamers expect a lot more within a live service game, and the pace of stuff, and that having Unreal Engine would help bring on new people that they didn't have to be trained in a whole new engine.
That's true. Yeah, like anyone can kind of learn how to use Unreal right now, and you can, get to work right away.
Yeah, so like
that makes sense.
Onboarding new people would make it easier as well. I think, be honest, I felt like I got two different versions of why they were doing it. The announcement video, there was a big focus on like graphics and potential. And then like, I think there were some articles behind the scenes which talked about like onboarding new people and like streamlining and kind of like the production line of live service games. And that's kind of where I feel like you would make that move, really, is to be able to make more content better and quicker than what you had before. Because if anything, I actually found the video put me off the studio announcement. I'm like, because they were like, Halo's always been about graphics. I was like, no. Halo's been about music and cool campaigns and like
set
epic
pieces.
Scenes. Like graphics were a part of it, but I mean, like we all know that a game can look good. I mean, Halo Infinite looks good already. Do you know what I mean?
Had a number of really good looking things. Yeah. And Halo 5 even did,
So I don't think this is making a game look better. It's not going to return to community, but
yeah, I think you're picking up on something really interesting that I felt as well, which is like what we got here is I think there's a lot to the story and a lot that we don't know. But obviously 343's had a lot of troubles. I think Microsoft had to kind of really go back to the drawing board. We know they've lost some studio directors, reorganized, all that stuff. However, the thing I think you're picking up on is Unreal must have been excited to hear this news when Microsoft's like, all right, we'll do it. And if you look back on things, you now are seeing, in my opinion, you're like, this is one of the biggest announcements for Unreal and Unreal Engine 5. So they got to come out with one of the biggest franchises in gaming and say, look, we're working together. I think you're seeing some of that. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I was like, it's kind of like a big Unreal Engine 5 promo. It
kind of felt like that. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was just because Epic was even in the video, and I'm not saying that it was like intentionally meant to be an ad for Unreal, but I think they got so excited to work together and make an announcement. It was an Unreal
focused.
Yeah, it was about
very
Unreal.
But
with that, they were like, oh, and by the way, we're changing the studio name, and it's a complete reorg, and we have multiple projects. And I think because of those two messages, there's a little oil and water there. I think you're absolutely right.
I agree. Yeah, I was picking up on two different kind of messaging, and part of me was like, I think a lot of people who are in the Halo community are obviously happy because like it's been stagnant and Halo Infinite, didn't launch well and it's recovered somewhat, but it's still, not where a lot of people would wanted to see it. So it's like Destiny players. Like if Destiny said like we're doing this because you see the potential, right? Like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
this is going to help make better content, better Halo content. So there's a lot of
Hopefully.
excitement around it for that. As someone outside of the scene, hearing them talk about graphics, I was like, brother, Halo Infinite didn't fail because it didn't look good. It
True.
looked good.
It did
The
look
sandbox was
fine.
good. Like that's not why it had troubles, right?
Yeah.
But you can also see how it's part of problem too of Halo didn't launch all the features it should have launched on. And if that was an issue of slip space, well then, okay, now I see where this is a solution to that.
Yeah, it's so complicated. You're right. There's so many reasons, but you got to remember that remember when they first unveiled it and people were like, what is up with the lighting and this brown, whatever? There was something up with that. And then,
the main character looked funny, didn't he?
No,
actually, you're right.
And there is this history of, so you kind of forget that, right? When Halo first came out on Xbox, you're like, holy crap, this is on a console. And like, it was incredible at the time overall. Real-time lighting effects and particles or whatever. But so it's got that history that I think they realized they disappointed to some degree, even though I agree with you that there's some really banging looking stuff in Slip Space. But on the whole, I think that history's there. And then you have just 343 and its ups and downs of having to take the torch from Bungie. And then you have the layoffs as well. And I think we may even be forgetting as a community, not you necessarily, but like, those layoffs led to people saying, and there was a rumor that 343 isn't working on Halo anymore. And I remember tweeting, I'm like, guys, like, this is absurd. But this is how bad the communication got. And frankly, I think they got to the point where it was like, maybe they didn't know exactly what they were doing next. And people were leaving, right? And so here we are. They're like, guys, we're Halo Studios. We want to clear up. We're working on Halo stuff. And we're just going to use this engine, and they show you these beautiful rendered shots that I think try to implant in your brain that this is what Halo looks like. Even though, by the way, those are just rendered on, it wasn't even real time like gameplay. Yeah. And so it's good to see that they're concepting what it could look like. But you're right. They showed you nothing from a gameplay perspective of what the next Halo may be. In fact, they didn't even announce that there is a next Halo.
So there's multiple projects that they're working on, right?
So maybe we should speculate.
I mean, how long have they been? Has it been like 2 years that they've been like planning the Unreal? Because it's not a very long time to like have a game made and planned and ready to release or announce.
It's to do with what was the? It was not called Forge. It was there was like Foundry. The develop Foundry, right? So I think that's what you're talking about. What that had been around for like 2 years or something, and this is kind of testing and showcasing what could be the possibility with it, right?
Yeah, and for clarity, Project Foundry, as I understood, was roughly it was the look. We got to get rid of slip space, work on new workflows, and reinvent how we develop Halo. That's what Project Foundry is. Project Foundry is not a game; it's a studio goal, and to reinvent themselves. And this was part of it, and say, hey, we also have Unreal Engine 5. Yeah. So I mean. I think I have predictions on what I think it means for what's next for Halo, but I don't know if you guys want to go first or.
Yeah, no, because that's my next thought. Really, is like, is Halo actually done? Like, can Halo have a proper space in gaming?
I think this was part of
your off now.
It's like a part of your stream, Myelin, when you were like, thinking about what could Halo do to get me wanting to log in like often and engage with it frequently. And it's hard, right? You're like, because I'm like, I don't know. I actually don't know what any multiplayer shooter could do to keep me wanting to log in and play it like I used to.
Yeah.
But that's where it's
Fran.
Well, but you guys are getting very different stuff. It's like, there's Halo the campaign, there's Halo PvP, then there was, of course, Halo esports and PvP. The list goes on. So
surely you'd think that they'd want to be, a live service PvP game, right?
To me, that's where I think they really got to think about what is Halo in the modern day. I think that Halo Infinite really represented the conflict there. They tried to be like, oh, Halo's finally back and it's relaunching and it's Halo Infinite, as if it's gonna probably get a bunch of like updates every year or two. And and PvP is free, and like that whole package was fighting against the idea as well. It's like, well, it's not a battle royale, it's an arena shooter. It's not quite a live service, but it is. It's free, and like, so I think they may need to even separate all this stuff now, right? And meaning I think that there's no reason to assume that the, call it $60, $70 Halo has anything to do with PvP at this point. But that doesn't mean that PvP won't exist. I mean,
Well,
to me,
'cause
that works fine. You don't need them to be
think, like,
packaged in the same thing.
the fact that they released a pretty with all the issues aside, they ended up releasing a pretty good looking arena shooter that was free to play, and it's not really there numbers wise. So like,
Yeah, it's fun though. I like Halo Infinite overall.
I mean, I think everyone says I probably enjoy jumping in, but that's kind of like the thing is like, you need these more persistent games for a PvP game, right? To like keep it healthy.
That's what I've
and
said
keep your
about like
player base.
the finals, right? I've been like playing the finals. I'm having a really good time. I have fun with the finals. But what makes me go, I want to play the finals tonight? I don't know.
Every day.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
feel
no,
like a lot of the PvP games that have been around are just really in that competitive space, right? The ones that are surviving do have that competitive ones, and then it's really hard to break into that too. I mean, look at what happened like to Concord.
Right. That words out of my mouth. I was just about to say the Concord problem, that had other stuff too. But
like, it's not good enough to just have a good shooter.
Yeah. So yeah, if you look at like PvP, that's what I see with Halo. Is like, look, the arena stuff is iconic and it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. The Forge stuff with that, I think they do really cool stuff. That now you have Unreal Engine stuff, and you look at like Fortnite and the community behind like building stuff. I think tons of potential at the core of like, they'll just do the future of whatever that is, but they're going to need a PvP mode or set of modes and things that make it, whether it's Battle Royale, Warzone-esque, or if it's an extraction shooter meets, like I think they've got to take a really big swing with the next evolution. So. To your point, like, because people just, like, it's the Concord problem. It's not that it wasn't fun. It's that Overwatch and Apex and Fortnite and Warzone and all, they're all so much bigger.
They already give you the same experiences, and they have populations in there already, and they're free to play.
Exactly.
And this is kind of what I was speaking on when I was looking at this on my stream. I was like, when I think of Halo, I don't think, it just had the best graphics. I think like Halo was a leader in multiplayer, right? Like it redefined multiplayer on console. And it's like, I feel like that's kind of like their barricade now is like, how do you redefine Halo in this gaming landscape? How do you give a new unseen mode that we don't know that we want yet?
Yeah, and that's for me, I could be completely wrong. It's almost contrary to what Call of Duty does, but I think separate out all of these PvP aspirations, focus on that as one project. Right. Let's say it's got an extraction battle royale-esque, cool thing. And then it's got the arena stuff and the Forge and all of that as part of it. And then you've got the campaign. And like, that's where you're speaking to me. I have always loved PvP in that, but I'm actually a huge fan of just like the really epic, shiny steel, the particle effects, Cortana, and like, I think, I joked when you were getting into it before. I'm like, hey, Doom. People super stoked to have like a new Doom and just a campaign. Like if Doom can do it, there's no reason that Halo can't do it. You've just got to make it big and expensive and get it right. And I don't see any reason why they can't continue to do that though. But I think that is like 2029, or you're looking at a next gen / something very long and off in the future for that thing. And I got one more thought in between, which some people have been kind of saying. I think the anniversary for the first Halo is coming up. I forget which one it is, but either way, it would make a lot of sense to maybe remake the first Halo in Unreal. Just that, maybe no multiplayer, whatever, but do it in a way that's kind of a stopgap of like, hey, it's not a huge, it'd still be a lot of work, but I think that could be really cool to see the potential, get their feet wet. And then that would lead us to call it 5-6 years in the future for whatever big drop they got coming.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to any announcement they have when these other projects they're working on to see which way they go, because I think it needs a big shake up.
Yeah. And maybe the last note I'd make is that you have Bungie had layoff shakeups. There were people from Bungie at the Concord team, Firewalk Studios shakeups, and then 343 has had shakeups. But now they're actually they're hiring, trying to spin things up. It'd be really interesting if you saw like some people that worked on the original. You already kind of had it, but I wonder if there's like some Bungie folks that are going to end up at Halo Studios from this anyway, if they hadn't already. So to me, the future is generally bright for Halo, but yeah, they've got to spend a lot of time and money on it. And yeah, just do something bigger without whatever went wrong with Halo Infinite. Yeah, it just didn't hit right, and we can't have that happen again.
Only other thing out of my list is next week we have Once Human update. This is their first big PvE
well,
expansion.
guess what? Fran finally played it.
Did you?
Yeah, barely any though. It was for a sponsored Twitch bounty, so I just only got a little bit into the beginning and doing a little bit of house crafting. So I still don't know much about Once Human.
But he experienced
I like it.
A little bit.
It's good.
But wait, just for clarity, for those who do or don't play a lot,
Yeah,
is it a big
as well.
upcoming update, or is this pretty common?
No, it's a big one. So this will be like their next map with like next campaign. I think introducing new weapons and armor and stuff like that. So previously it's just been server wipes. So you play it, you get the server wiped. So I moved to a hard server, and that introduced like essentially Destiny champions. Like straight up, like there's a champion and you need to have a mod selected and use like a hand cannon mod and use a hand cannon to like stun them. And they upped the survival aspects of it. So like your food and your water, you had to have more often to survive in that area. And enemies in general more hard. They actually felt like how they should be in a survival crafting game. Like the enemies actually felt like at the right level. You probably found that like enemies just kind of look at you like when you first start playing. They're like not very threatening. So when you go to the hard server, like they're actually kind of what they should be at. But there hasn't been any new content. They've only had a PvP server open up. They had different game modes on it, kind of like faction wars, like territory wars with it. I didn't transfer over because I'm still making videos on the current server. And and then next week will be their like first big update. It's still had a pretty healthy population of people playing it. Like I think it's like Steam charts have been pretty good overall. It's free to play, so
yeah, that's right.
I had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, I had a good time with Once Human.
Yeah, I would say that I only played a little, so it's way too premature. But I could see a number of things that I would like about it. I always like crafting and building and learning those things. However, at the same time, I felt very much that free to play kind of. It was very like there was a lot going on in that first hour. I felt like
UIs and stuff is
janky to some
awful.
degree, and it throws a lot at you at once. But I don't think it's there's just games that are like that you have a lot to sort out. But yeah, I mean, I got like so many things that I want to play that I just personally like. Yeah, I'd be like, yo, go. To put it more clearly, because I bag it on something, I'm like, please go spend $40 on Witchfire, and like if you want stuff like that versus free to play stuff. However, I know Once Human, like people, they really dig it.
Yeah, there's a lot of, they have dialed in the like week to week stuff. Like you have to be logging on pretty regularly to do your like weekly activities to get the material that you need to like unlock blueprints to get new armor.
That stresses me out just hearing you say it.
Yeah. And it's all the same things I would complain about Destiny. And I would probably complain about it if I'd been playing it for 10 years. But because I haven't been playing it for 10 years, I don't mind doing some of those things to log in. And it has like dungeons and raids pretty much that you do to unlock mods. And that's kind of where the loot grind is to unlock these mods to make your build like perfected. And I actually really enjoy that part of the game. So we will see next week.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right.
That's all I've got. My variety list of things to talk about. Unless you got anything else to add about Dragon Ball Z, apart from I've just been seeing just Tiki Talks left, right, and center about people enjoying Dragon Ball, and I don't really know much more apart from I played it on PlayStation 2, I think. Dragon Ball Z, is it? Yeah,
Spark
one of the
Zero something.
Sparking Zero.
I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of game is it again?
It's like a fighting game that has
It's
a story and multiplayer.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
like, I
even.
haven't had time
Is
to
it
get into Dragon
technically
Ball, but-
out yet? Because that was the early access period.
Maybe it was early access.
That was
see on
early access where
On
you
Steam,
you
it said that it just came out like today, maybe.
Oh, there you go.
So
Yeah, October 10th was the release date, so it came out probably the same time as Metaphor came out, which was like an hour ago or so. So yeah, that it peaked at 91,000 on Steam alone
Yeah, it looks
during
good.
early access. So that was, where you pay extra money to play early. So
oh brother,
kind of crazy.
early unlock. But yeah, no, I'm just looking through the footage. It looks solid. If you're in a Dragon Ball, looks like you're.
I've
gonna like
never
it a lot,
been
but
into
it's not my
fighting
thing.
games, and I feel like I'll get pissed off if I play it.
I've heard it's very hard. Yeah, that's a thing that I've heard all over is people being like, I'm getting my ass kicked.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of characters in it too, apparently.
Oh,
Like, a
so
lot.
many. Yeah.
Like the whole entire cast. of
Over
Dragon Ball.
180 characters.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of content in there if you want to play as like every character. And I think when you're doing multiplayer and stuff, you can unlock more characters. Yeah, the roster's crazy. Actually, at Tokyo Game Show, they had monitors in their booth for like every character. So it's just like 180 monitors with each character per
Really?
monitor.
Yeah, it looks good. I do actually, one thing that we don't have to talk about it, but I just want to shout out to Nintendo bringing back the old school weirdness out of the blue. Thought it was an April Fool's. The Nintendo Alarmo, a physical Nintendo alarm clock, $100. It's kind of a collector's thing more than anything. But you set it next to your bed, and it's got a motion detector. It does all this
yes,
crazy
I
stuff
saw
about
that.
playing Nintendo themed like wake up stuff, and like because it's tracking you, it's trying to get you out of bed. You don't even have to press snooze. It's wild. Go look up the Alarmo if you have not. But
The
also if you
Alarmo.
want
It's
one,
called it's called Alarmo.
Yes.
dude, it is a trip to watch. But this is like old school, like what Nintendo, But I honestly I love them for it. Like, I think people were just so confused that it wasn't like a Switch. Product announcement is like it's an alarm clock, like it's playing like Pikmin sounds. Anyway, it's amazing to me that they developed and are releasing it, but it's very Nintendo, so I appreciate it.
Nice.
Monster Hunter has more collabs. If you want more Monster Hunter collabs,
I just want that guitar.
Tell me about
stuff.
it.
There's watches now. Watches themed after different monsters, and they look pretty incredible. Pretty good. I was like, man, I kind of want that Mizutsune watch. It looks good. Because it's the 20th anniversary, they just have so many collabs. They have wedding rings. I saw wedding rings today that have so they have the engraving of the monster, and then they have a gem in that's like the same color as the monster. So for Velkhana, it will have like an engraving that looks like her, but then it will have one spot where the stone goes that will be blue for Velkhana. It's crazy. There's so many. You can also pre-order the collector's edition on eCapcom now, where you get a baby Sacred plushie. Do that, which I'm gonna do.
In Australia?
I think it's all shipped from Japan, and then it ships via for me, for example, it's World Shopping. So it's a company where you pay money, they buy it for you, it gets shipped to their warehouse, and then they send it to you. So they just do everything through that now, and they're like, you guys can just use World Shopping to buy from our store. We don't need to do it.
Copy that.
Yeah. So I have so many games that I could have jumped into. I got access to Realm of Ink, which is like a roguelike game. Windblown is another roguelike game that I had access to. There was a Mandragora demo, which I didn't end up playing. There's been so many games, and
Yep.
tomorrow
Just keeps getting worse in that sense.
I will be playing the first Berserker Kazan. So if any of you guys signed up for the network test for that, they're actually sending out codes like the day it's available, which is tomorrow. So if you did sign up, check your emails starting tomorrow, check your spam, check your notifications, check it all. You might have a code in there.
Old.
Nice.
Might have a code. I'm really excited for that though. That's a game that, like, 2025. That's one of the games that I'm really excited for. People have said that it's really good. Said it's very difficult, and it actually seems that it's very similar to Neo, because obviously Neo is like a Souls-like game, but Neo's got its very own specific kind of thing going on. And First Berserker Kazan seems like it's like a Neo-like. So I'm always down for that. I love Neo. I can't wait. It's like 10 hours of content in the demo too. It's crazy.
Oh, nice.
It's a big old
That
demo.
reminds me, also because of a Twitch bounty sponsorship, I finally tried Wukong, and I was like, yeah,
You did,
can see
yeah.
why people like this. To me, it's got some like light Sekiro kind of structure vibes, but from the way it plays and stuff is different. But it's solid. So I was impressed so far. I know for some people that's been their game of the year. So yeah, like too much to choose from.
Bounties in Australia. France just literally playing all the games I like and getting paid to goddamn do
I
it.
mean,
Tell you
Myelin,
what,
it's not-
Myelin.
Yeah.
Right now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 bounties right now in my dashboard.
I don't.
It's kind of nuts.
I don't do them that often because until you get. I don't know what your concurrency is like, but you got to be reasonably big for them to be like worth doing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if you are, you must be nice. But yeah, it worked out that there was some good games like Once Human and Wukong. Okay, and it worked, right? Because I haven't tried them. I'm talking about it on the show now, and like it worked out. And
Yeah, I'll
support
tell
the
you the
streamer
bounties that
and do the
I've
sponsor.
done. I've done Sekiro, Monster Hunter World, Ghost of Tsushima, Lies of P, at Once Human, and Wukong.
There you go.
So
Yeah,
I do
I've
only
played
pick.
all of them.
I do tend to just pick the ones that I really, at least normally that I really like. Like I could go out of my way and play all of these, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I'll just straight up tell you. For some of these, it's like maybe I'll get $20 for playing this thing. And I'm like, to me, that's not worth my time and worth your time. Personally, if I was going to play a game for like an hour and they want to work directly, like I would do something different, So that's why I don't do them as often. But if you're a bigger, creator, it can work out for you. So. Actually, that would be an interesting question going forward over the next week. Any predictions? What you think you'll be playing the most? I think for me, it's going to be Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred. I'm going to go pretty hard and want to eat that up. What about you guys? Predictions?
I think I'll be finishing Monster Hunter World.
Finishing, he says.
And then
I was like,
Human,
Watts Judgment coming.
finishing the campaign.
The
and
campaign for
then,
sure.
Once Human, I'm not making content on. I'll be keen to see all the new stuff in the new season, or whatever they're calling it, new scenario.
Nice. Any decisions from Watts on your mini?
Yeah, I'll be playing the first Berserker Kazan until I've played all of it. Maybe even playing it again. We'll see. But obviously that starts tomorrow. Metaphor, if we're gonna play the whole thing, it's probably gonna be 100 hours. So that's my entire life right there.
That's what I was wondering if you thought you'd go back to it. I guess we'll see.
I'm playing it on Saturday. Yeah, I'm definitely, like I said, it's probably going to be Game of the Year. It's going to be one of the greatest RPGs ever made. I want to experience at least half of it on stream, and if it's not, if we end up not streaming it, I can play it on the Steam Deck. I do want to play more Silent Hill for spooky times for sure because it's October, and I'm going to be weaving in Monster Hunter during all of that.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely be checking out the dungeon too. So we'll have that to talk about next week too. So
yeah, there should be some good stuff next week actually, because Metaphor's coming out, Berserker is out, Myelin would have been finished with the Iceborne campaign, the dungeon's out, lots of stuff.
All right.
We didn't have any Twitter questions because I forgot to put out Twitter questions because Briar's not here. So I was like, Briar is Twitter questions in my brain. So I didn't put out the Twitter questions. So if you do have any questions, please leave them for next week.
Yes.
We'll put out a tweet next week and you can put all your questions in there.
Copy that.
Yeah,
All right.
I think that is about it. Let us know if you do end up doing the dungeon as well. I would like to know people's thoughts, how it goes, comments, all that.
Yeah.
And if you're listening live, watch the Twitch the Twitch rivals thing because there's a ton of emblems. If you care about emblems, there's a ton of emblems happening for that.
True.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good show.
Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. I hope you enjoy whatever games you're gaming, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.